to the annual report on European Ombudsman's annual report for 2016, and the rapporteur is Mrs. Mitzi. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for giving me the floor. As far as this report is concerned, as I have said on a different occasion, and I think when Emily O'Reilly was here, I approved the work of the European Ombudsman. I think it's a very, very good report. It's very easy to read, and it is very citizen-friendly. So at least someone hasn't written a report and nobody understands quite what on earth it is saying. So she's done excellent work. I will not go into a summary of what her report is, because I've done that next time. So I will go into what I intend putting in my report as far as this is concerned. So my main recommendations to the Ombudsman in my report will be to continue her strategic inquiry on the Commission's transparency in handling infringement complaints in 2017, to continue monitoring the implementation of her recommendations for transparency in trialogues and in all trade agreements and negotiations with third countries, including with the UK, to continue working on transparency in the EU economic and financial decision-making process, such as the ECB, EIB and the Eurogroup, and to continue monitoring the EMA, the European Medicines Agency, to ensure that it meets the high standards of transparency and access to information in clinical trials basis. So I have also done some recommendations to the Commission and to other EU institutions on the basis of the Ombudsman's report. And these are to take on board the Ombudsman's recommendations and revise the Code of Conduct for Commissioners in accordance with the treaty obligations. Here we're talking of the commissioners taking one job after another with what would be conflict of interest. And to improve the EU Transparency Register, making it a central transparency hub for EU institutions, and to fully implement the Ombudsman's recommendations on the procedure for appointing special advisers and on appointing its expert groups. So those will be my recommendations as far as the Ombudsman's reports to the Commission. But I am also looking forward to see the Ombudsman's follow-up actions, particularly on the inquiry on assessing how the new EU staff rules governing the so-called revolving doors, which I have referred to before, work in practice, and on the Ombudsman's inquiries following complaints of persons with disabilities, and her work as an active member of the EU framework of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. The report also will look at the Commissioner's practice on lobbyists and the measures adopted by SG Sanko under the obligations of the United Nations Framework Convention for Tobacco Control, which in my opinion could be easily implemented in all other departments. So, in conclusion, the report will recall the previous recommendations of the Ombudsman on the European Citizens Initiative, to be discussed next. And finally, yet importantly, the report is also emphasising on the work done on whistleblowers and the measures of the EU institutions to encourage whistleblowing and protect whistleblowers against retribution. So I do have some ideas which I left outside the report because obviously limitations on the size, so you can't put everything in, but we'll be able to enter it not from the door, we'll enter it from the window by means of amendments. I'd just like to remind you finally on the timetable. The consideration of the report in Petty will be on 11th of July. Deadline for amendments is 18th July, sorry, delete. So, deadline for amendments is 18th July at 3 o'clock. Vote in Petty will be 11th to 12th October meeting. Plenary is planned for November 1st. Thank you very much.